Hi, Soul Family, and welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Haji, and this is Amazing Pre-Birth Experiences. Our guest today is Elizabeth Carman. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, that's
Okay, so welcome, Elizabeth Carman. Elizabeth and her husband, Neil Carman, PhDs, are the authors of quite a few books, but one in particular that I have here is Babies Are Cosmic. And she's going to, I'm going to let her present what she's going to present, and uh, Elizabeth just jump straight in.
okay. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to share one of my favorite topics, the pre-birth world, the journey of our soul, who we are, where have we come from, where do we go after this life is over, all those kinds of questions. It's something that's fascinated me for decades. And as you can see on the screen, there's 3 books that my husband and I have researched over the years. And The Cosmic Cradle, Souls Waiting in the Wings is the first one, and that came out in 2000. 760 pages, so it's not one that many people have gotten through the whole thing, I don't think. My mother did. She said, next time write a shorter book. It's a little bit too much. So, okay, Mom. So the next book came out in 2013, and that's also called Cosmic Cradle, Spiritual Dimensions of Life Before Birth. And this is a updated version of the original book with half of the best, the 50% of the best of the first book, plus 50% new material. All kinds of things came up in those years between 2000 and 2013. We heard all kinds of things. So, hey, we've got to get them in the next book. So, number 2 and number 3 came out in 2019, Babies Are Cosmic. And this one mainly focuses on the signs of their secret intelligence. And and we're going to go into that. All right. What I want to talk about today is Mom, I Was in Your Tummy Twice. And this is a wonderful story. And we interviewed both the mother and her daughter, who gave her this message when she was just starting to talk. Just 2 or 3 years old. Mom, I was in your tummy twice. And it's a remarkable story about what comes next there. And let me just also introduce this diagram, which are the different signs of the secret intelligence of babies. They have 5 types of memories. They remember preconception, before mommy and daddy conceived them. They remember their conception. These are not everyone, but there's some that remember more of this than others. So let's clarify that. So conception, and then womb time, birth, and some remember past lives. So there's a wide range, 5 types of memories that we cover in our research. Plus, the babies have all of these character attributes of their consciousness. They are sentient beings. They are telepathically sensing. They are pain sensing. They have personality. They're thinking. They have clairvoyant experiences. They're learning. And so that is brought out through not only scientific research that's been done in this field and clinical reports from therapists working with babies, but also through the memories of the children themselves. So it's a wide expanse of information. So we're going to move ahead here and speak about this story, I Was in Your Tummy Twice. So this is a picture of Leslie, the mother, and in her first pregnancy, she was 11 to 12 weeks into the pregnancy when she had an experience in her morning shower. And she felt something drop out of her body as she was shampooing her hair. She felt something drop. She looked and a white blob was going down the drain. And she said, oh my God, it's the baby. It's the baby. She just freaked out. She went to the doctor. The doctor confirmed, yes, you've had a miscarriage. He confirmed that she had the miscarriage, and he recommended that she wait for about a year before she has another child, tries to get pregnant again. So she did that. A year later, she and her husband conceived, and her little girl, Elizabeth, was born. And from a young age, this is a picture of little Elizabeth. And she started talking about, I was in your tummy twice. The first time I washed down the drain. The second time I came out like a zipper. Oh my God. The mother thought, how could she know such a thing? She had never talked to her daughter about this subject, never. And of course, the daughter didn't have a huge vocabulary at that time. So this is about all she got, you know, a little bit of information. But the little girl, Elizabeth, retained those memories over time. And as her vocabulary increased, then she got more of the story. So something interesting happened when Elizabeth was 7. She and her mother were driving to a different part of the city. They had never been in that area before. And Elizabeth pointed out an inconspicuous building and said, I was in that building. And her mother says, well, that's the building I went to. That's where my doctor was when I was pregnant with you the first time, because she accepted that daughter's memory. And her daughter said, well, wait a minute. That's not exactly how it went. It went like this. She pointed to the building. I was in that building. And she said, that's when you were pregnant with me the first time, Mama. That's when you were pregnant with me the first time. And you had a fight with Daddy the night before I miscarried. So let's go to that. So that's the first time she told her mother about this argument. And what Elizabeth said here, I'm interviewing now, she's like 30 years old, and she still maintains all these memories. I was aware of my parents' huge fight about whether to circumcise the baby in the womb if it was a boy. They didn't know. And Leslie, the mother, was adamant that no, I want a natural experience for this child. I don't want any trauma, pain, and all that stuff. And the father says, no, 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 he'll be oddball in the locker room. And, you know, that's not we're not going, they had a huge fight. It wasn't just a simple discussion. It was huge. And so Elizabeth recalls being in the presence of that argument, hearing the parents fighting, and realizing, I'm a boy, and they're not going to stick together if I come in as a boy. And I want these parents. I've chosen these parents. They're the perfect match for what I want to do in this world. And I'm going to leave. I have to leave and come back. She knew she was a boy. And so she opted out. She said she remembers looking up at her mother shampooing her hair, and she fell out in slow motion. And she said, I recall the emptiness, the vastness, and she also hit the drain, strong thump of hitting the shower floor. And it was a huge shock having that. I guess it was because it was a physical experience on her body. I mean, something like, it was extremely shocking to her. She felt that thud and it reverberated throughout her whole body. And then she said she went down the drain and that experience ended and everything stopped. She does have memory of some interaction in the spirit world where she communicated with a guide, a higher being, about what do you want to do next. And she wanted to come back, and she was given a choice of 5 different couples that she could come back as their child. And one of them was the family that she was just with in that first pregnancy. She chose that couple. Again, she said, there is no question about any of the others. This is the proper parents for me. I want to come back, and I'm going to come back as a girl. So 1 year later, she came back, and here's something interesting. To this day, I will not step on a drain. So there was some trauma carried over from that experience of the miscarriage, because she's felt so, I don't know if the word is violated, but she's shaken up by that experience, and that was the end. Maybe it was like the death blow or something. I don't know what to say. Being out of the womb, she's dropping out of the body. Definitely, she's not. Anyway, her life ended at that point. So whenever she's, for example, at the beach, she will wear shoes or some kind of sandals when she's in the shower, because she doesn't want her feet to touch the drain. And whenever she's looking for her new apartment, she always goes for a bathtub. No showers if possible. She stays away. And so that's a very unusual experience, but she understood what it meant. It was because of her past experience in that first pregnancy. So let's look at what we want to analyze a little bit before we move on about the second part of her story, when we're going to talk about her pregnancy and birth in the second pregnancy of Leslie. So what are we learning from her memories? I have 3 major points to discuss here. The clairvoyant perception of the parents' argument, the conscious premature departure from the womb, and the roots of the phobia going back to the miscarriage. So number 1, the clairvoyant perception of the parents' argument. We can see here on our little chart of the signs of the secret intelligence of babies. One of them is the clairvoyant sensing. 9 o'clock on the dial over there. Okay. So the babies, the children who report their memories, and even adults who retain these memories many years later, they have experiences of the womb interior. They have experiences of different things that are happening in their parents' lives. They might remember a conversation or whatever. So this is not unusual to have this experience that happened to her. And it was very traumatic, we could say, very, full of drama. Okay, so our current, the conscious premature departure from the womb, that is something that our current medical model certainly doesn't take that into consideration. If a woman comes in after a miscarriage, oh, we think it was your baby. They're never going to say anything like that. But here we have a case where the girl, Elizabeth today and throughout her whole life, has claimed that she made that decision because she wanted to be with those parents and return as a girl. So the unborn baby state of mind may be an underlying cause of birth loss. Roots of the phobia going back to the miscarriage. I spoke a little bit about that. The roots of the phobia go back to miscarriage. Now, this is something that even today she deals with that phobia, and her mother never discredited that, which made her feel very comfortable that there's not something wrong with me and I'm okay. There's a reason for this. It made sense. And what's interesting is these past life, we could call what she experienced almost like a past life. Certainly she wasn't born, but she was in the journey to birth. And Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, has spoken quite a bit about, has written many books on children's past life memories, and including the biology and how trauma carries over from one life to the next, for example. So I'm on this point about the roots of a phobia going back to the miscarriage in Elizabeth's case, and that may be the case for other people as well. According to Dr. Stevenson, who has studied children's reincarnation memories all over the planet, he has traveled worldwide and has written countless books. And in one in particular I'm referencing here is Reincarnation in Biology, a contribution to the etiology of birthmarks and birth defects. Well, what he's saying is that when the child has a memory of a serious injury to a certain part of the body, for example, maybe a stabbing in a certain part of the body or a gunshot wound in a certain part of the body. Those are just two examples. In this lifetime, in the current lifetime, when he's interviewing these children in these cases, they have a birthmark in that part of the body. So that connects back, I believe, to Elizabeth's experience of her phobia of drains. And even when she was a little girl and had to go to the bathroom, she would have her mother flush the toilet so she didn't have to be in the room to hear it. Or if she was alone, she would flush it and just run like lightning to get out of that bathroom. She did not want to hear the sound of water going down a drain. So it's a very, what should we say, a validation of her memory. We're going to move on to the mother's second pregnancy. So as I said, Leslie became pregnant a year later. She felt it was the same soul, just, intuitively, psychically, she picked that up. And the way Elizabeth described her experience in that second pregnancy is her mother and father would be talking to her, communicating with her in the womb and welcoming her, and she felt all their love. It was a very pleasant pregnancy, certainly not like the one where they had the big fight. Okay, so everything's going smoothly. And then when she was in the womb, she knew the time was growing short, and she said, I wasn't ready. And 6 hours into the labor, and we're talking about Leslie at home in a natural childbirth with midwives and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden she flipped and became breech. That was amazing. Now, we can wonder, why did she do that? She said she wasn't ready. Maybe she was afraid to come out with that fear of going down the drain again. I mean, we could speculate what it's all about. Maybe she wanted to assert herself. I'm an independent being and I'm going to be born when I'm ready, and I'm not ready yet. And we don't know. We don't know those details. But a big baby flipping breech just before birth is quite an accomplishment. Anyway, there was a cesarean delivery, emergency. And so that's why she said, I came out like a zipper. That's what she told her mother. First, I was washed down the drain, Mommy. I came out of you twice. And the second time, I came out like a zipper. Well, what was that experience like as a zipper? She said it was a shock. It was a traumatic jolt. I was peaceful in the womb. all of a sudden she could sense the doctor cutting the mother's stomach open, and she described it as she was in this dark room and suddenly somebody slowly opening up the drapes and the bright light is coming in, and she's just overwhelmed by this experience of all this contrast. And she also felt that the doctor was a little rough in handling her. And so she felt violated, abused. And so that was her experience of the cesarean delivery. And from our side, we need to update our medical model because effects of the standard obstetrical procedures, and this is just one minor case, we could say maybe it didn't even have an effect on her life after that. I don't know, but there's many things that happen to little babies, either they're in the womb or at birth, that are considered necessary things to do, and they don't take into account that this characteristic, pain sensing, they're finally starting to accept a little bit of that, but that's another big topic. And of course, all this is in detail in our book. So we have to take into account that we're dealing with a real human being and treat that human being with love and not hurt. So there's that's a big topic. We won't go into that right now, but so the biological basis for pre-birth memory is a mystery, because what science basically thinks is, oh, the bigger your brain is, the more developed your brain is, then you remember, you recall, you experience pain, all those sorts of things. But these kinds of memories that we're dealing with are showing that we're going beyond the brain. There's more to us than just being a physical body. We need to look into our deepest core, the field of consciousness. That's who we really are at our core right here. So some concluding statements here. Babies are not born as blank slates as we once thought. This is an idea that's come down in medicine and psychology for over 100 years. And we are saying the exact opposite. Babies come in with a full slate of consciousness. That's what we are finding. So this more complex consciousness of the incoming baby, of the soul, demands a new standard of medical care that includes the power of love. And for more information, you can read our books. You can find our books online, Kindle versions, other digital versions, as well as hard copies. We have websites, 2 websites, one for each of the main books that we're promoting now, Babies Are Cosmic and Cosmic Cradle. We have a YouTube channel, Journey to the Birth, and Facebook. We have many stories if you want a little bit of inspiration about the sacredness of life. Just come to our Facebook, and Babies Are Cosmic, all kinds of stories, and Facebook, Cosmic Cradle, Spiritual Dimensions of Life Before Birth. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you today, and I hope this has brightened up your day to see that we are more special beings than what some people may think. We are beyond the physical. We are divine beings in human form. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And if you have any questions that come to mind now, or we can talk in later presentations when we get together.
Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Okay. And so I am the queen of questions. I already have four that I jotted down. I don't know if I should save them for next time. So I mean, if you have time to answer them.
Yeah, I think if we can answer them now, because if somebody's watching this, they may wonder where those questions and answers went and
Yes, yes.
whatever. Did they ever do it?
So I have to say that I mean I've read the book and I am in the middle of the book and I am just absolutely loving Babies Are Cosmic. Lots of tons of stories that show you that we are more than these bodies for sure. And, you know, tons of evidence of that. And you guys put so much of your life. I want to thank you before I even thank you for being here. I want to thank you and your husband for the work that you have done. Like you are definitely helping. You're part of that big group of Earth Angels, Starseeds, volunteers, whatever you want to call it, that are helping move this planet forward, upward and
Well,
forward.
it's been a joyride. The whole thing has just been a complete opening up to this marvelous field of information and knowledge and wisdom. But
Yeah.
I just felt like I was on a treasure hunt and kept interviewing more and more people, and of course did a lot of cross-cultural research into people all over the planet. For
Beautiful.
example, the Australian Aborigines who did not bring a child into the family unless there was a spirit child dream. If that spirit child wasn't willing to enter and didn't come around in a dream, didn't matter how much sex they had. So spirit child, this idea of our soul, our spirit child, comes in the area of motherhood and parenthood in other traditions as well as what we're seeing today. And we didn't talk that much about pre-birth communication, but we have that's a whole other topic.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Right.
just for people.
Thank
Right.
you for your appreciation, and we're happy to share, and we enjoy when people grok what we're talking about and want to hear about it.
And it's, I mean, it's very important. And if people really stop and think about it, you know, but even if you don't have a child, like I don't have children, you were born at one point, you know? So this is something that no matter what, you're not going to get away from this topic. Like it connects to you in some way. But this particular story, like I don't know that I had ever read, I might have read just a small part of Elizabeth's story, but
In the
in here,
Babies Are Cosmic, it's very brief, but we have a
yeah.
whole chapter in the previous book.
Okay. So I kind of remembered it, but I mean, when you go into detail, there are questions that I have that I feel like I might have to put like trigger alert, trigger alert, trigger alert, because this really does make someone who, if someone's really questioning, this makes you think about a lot of things, especially if you're a nurse or, you know, you work or a midwife or somebody who works with dealing with pregnancies and helping bring babies into this world. Then there's also, of course, the question of abortion as well. And, you know, post-term, I don't know what they call it, but the later abortions and things like that. And so I don't want to like put any guilt on anybody who has had these experiences because we all have loved someone who has done this, or we might be someone who has done this. And I've read NDEs or pre-birth experiences where they said that there's no actual guilt. Like there were people who literally said my soul was not in that body. Like we as souls, I think, have the choice, from what I've read, to be in that fetus at whatever point during the pregnancy. And I saw this mirrored in your book, like where people said, oh, you know, souls will like come in and out. They're in heaven, they're coming down, they're all over the place. And they finally decide, okay, it's time to like get serious about this, and they get in the body, you know? So I was surprised that she, as such a small fetus, was still feeling and experiencing that. And hit
Yeah,
my question to you is, do you feel like is this something that always happens? Like, is it always the case that the spirit is wanting to experience that, or was it a particular part of that soul's pre-birth plan to be there up until the last drop into the drain?
I don't have, I'm not sure if that was, it may have been planned, because what a story it made. And look what we can share and learn from it. So it could have been planned. there is a high possibility, or not. But you can see the value of this kind of experience that she had. And she
Yeah.
picked those parents. Those parents were open. They did not invalidate her and say, you flush your own toilet and you step on that drain and you're crazy. I'm going to bring you to the psychiatrist. There's something wrong here. No, she picked parents who were open to this higher reality of who we really are, and understood reincarnation, understood, natural birth. The mother was into all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's so much to talk about. And I mean, I don't want to take too much time because I really have a million questions always. So I promise you, I'm going to have to try to cut this off. But the other question, I mean, I did not know that she had decided to go from a male to a female based on that argument. I mean, talk about a child who understands their parents and is trying to be like a peacemaker. This is the epitome. Like she left this whole world, changed a whole entire sex just to make sure, okay, that we can be a family and we can work through this. That is spectacular.
The argument was so intense, she could see it would have led to divorce. She could have
Mm,
been born as a boy, but mama would not have circumcised, and she would have divorced that husband and left him. She wanted both of them.
wow. And
And
it's amazing because there's people clearly, and we all have known people who have the exact opposite story where they came as that boy and the family kind of maybe potentially, who knows what could have came from that, but a lot of just trauma and drama just because of the sex. And that brought to mind, remember, I mean, I don't know if it's still done in China, but the times when all those female babies in like I think China and India they would, I guess, all throughout history, there's been times that if they didn't like a particular sex or maybe they were afraid of twins, like there were times in certain places they thought twins were evil and they might get rid of one. So a lot of just weird kind of things that people did because of a sex of a child. And you have to think, so, okay, were those spirits kind of still wanting to be a part of that? Was it just the fetus? Did the spirit kind of leave and allow just the body to go through these experiences?
I don't know if you can generalize answers to those, because it it's might be a case by case. In this case, it happened because of this. In that case, it happened because of that. So if you just take the example of abortion, children who remember being aborted, some of them, and it's in that chapter with that you're reading where babies opt out. Read that chapter. It's all on miscarriage and baby loss. Some of the children will say, I understood mama wasn't ready yet, so it's okay. I came back completely open to it. There may have been some, I can't remember details, and I need to go back and refresh my memory, but it seems like there might have been some that were a little upset by it, but I can't put my finger on a story right now, but please read that. Now, one thing I want to bring out is, if a mother gets pregnant and it's an unwanted situation, for example, I'm going to give you there's several cases like this that I'm aware of, and there's a Dr. McGarry, who is obstetrician for like 60 years. Anyway, she's an amazing woman, but she encouraged these women who were having unwanted pregnancies to communicate with the baby out of love and explaining, I want to have you later on. This isn't a good time. For whatever reasons, maybe the marriage relationship is a little rocky. Maybe they don't, maybe economically, maybe she has other things she wants to do in her life. And please come back later. And there's children who remember coming back after, well, they not only have a spontaneous miscarriage, but they remember coming back. So there's a lot of things to explore in this area. And yeah, one of the first cases that I interviewed was a woman who exactly like this. She was pregnant with her second child. She wasn't ready. The marriage was really shaky. She didn't know if it was going to make it. And she had a deep communication with that child and said, please come back. And she wrote on she was out in her backyard, just kind of in a meditative state, feeling the presence of the baby. And she wrote 3 conditions. My marriage needs time to heal. We need to move from this little apartment to bigger home. And I want to complete my education. I'm in the middle of. So she wrote that on her tablet, sitting in the backyard, and the most amazing thing happens, and I believe her. She said, a bumblebee came, and the bumblebee walked up, and each of the 3 conditions she has written down on her. She couldn't believe it. She said, I wish I had a witness and she also didn't really want to tell anybody about it, because they would just poo it and say, oh, you're just making stuff up, because it was a very sacred moment for her. And then a year later, she got pregnant. All those conditions had been fulfilled. She realized once she got pregnant, oh, every one of those conditions, this is the perfect time. And she felt that the soul was exactly the same one. This mother ended up having like 5 or 6 kids. So she was very sensitive to each pregnancy and the soul of the child. So that, and then what's interesting about the little girl in school, she was always ahead of herself, about a year ahead of herself, more mature, more advanced student. So that was curious how, I don't know how to explain that, but that was just, well, it was a validation in the sense that I don't know what it meant. Maybe somebody else can figure that one out. But.
Well, I mean, you got to wonder, because I feel like I've had experiences where, and I don't know how to explain it. I don't even know if I should even mention it, but I feel like baby spirits have come to me, and that's the best way I can explain it. So I wonder if in her situation, that particular baby said, sure, I'll wait, but I'm sticking around and watching for a year.
That's a good explanation. It's possible.
Yeah, so
it's possible. They're in the wings. They're waiting in the wings, and sometimes years in advance. They tell mommy and daddy that they saw this and that mommy and daddy were doing. Now, you weren't born yet. You weren't even conceived. Oh no, I know. And there's validation. So yeah, the worlds are connected. This world and more spiritual dimensions.
Yes. And so I'm going to start to close it off here, because this is just a prelude. Like, we're going to have a much bigger, greater, meeting and interview that people could enjoy. But this topic, please, guys, this topic is full of magic. It's one of those other spiritual topics that will help you to realize that the world that we think we live in is not the world that they taught us and told us that we are in at all. And for women who are pregnant now, if you're pregnant while listening to this, or you think about getting pregnant, just please talk to your baby. You can talk to them before. You can talk. You could not even be thinking about being pregnant. You can talk to your children 2-3 years in advance. As you can see, they can hear you. Talk to them with love, and treat them with love, and try to protect yourself in whatever environment you are. Please make it a loving one, because as we move forward and we evolve, we want everything to be about love and peace and just comfort and just joy. So we should start by giving that to our babies before they're even here. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm telling you, this is amazing. I love this topic, and you guys are the experts, absolute experts.
Well, thank you for your appreciation and this opportunity, and we're looking forward to sharing more. There's no question about that. That's what we're interested in. People that want to listen, we're going to want to tell them about it.
Perfect. Okay, so on that note, I send you blessings, and I thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.